Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Misunderstood Show. We have a very, very, very special guest today. We have JoDee Neal. She is a former prosecutor, and she wrote a book called Outcry Witness. It is a guide to healing and justice after sexual violence, and she is an advocate for children. You were in, oh my gosh, what is the county again?
I've done two counties, Collin County and Grayson County.
Okay. In Grayson County, I guess, is the most recent. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I was actually born in Collin County. I was born in in the Plano Hospital.
Yeah. The one there at Coit in Plano Parkway.
I have no idea. That was in 1980. We moved in 1982, so I do not remember.
I was also born in 1980, so happy 45th birthday.
Well, thank you. My birthday is January 4th, so I'm due for my next birthday already.
I'm January 2nd, so we're best friends.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Well, happy birthday.
I was born in a different hospital though, so it's not that eerie.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I was listening to something. I listened to one of your interviews, and you mentioned that your mother was born in the county up there, or was buried and born, right?
Yeah, she was born in Sherman, and she's buried in Van Alstyne.
That's crazy. So you have deep roots there.
Deep roots there, and in Collin County, and in Dallas.
That's crazy. My brother's his name is also Colin. So, we have, and then my husband has a client in Sherman. He was recently there. And then we drove to Oklahoma in October to visit a friend in Tulsa, and we drove through there. And I hadn't been up there in 20 something years. So yeah, it was, and I'd never been north of Plano. So it was neat. I drove through, there's nothing out there. And it's growing, but it's very like farm, rural, and a little bit of it, I guess, industrial kind of development. Because that's kind of my husband he's an industrial engineer. So anyway,
cool.
Yeah. So I'm a little familiar with the area, but yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself, like a little bit of your history. I'm sorry, let me mute my phone. I forgot to do that.
Yeah, a little bit of my history. Well, I'm a 20-year lawyer. I'm a courtroom lawyer type. So I know how to go into the courtroom and explain things to, lay people. And I started doing that when I was 25. And I've had a good run at it. I lived for several years in Singapore where I consulted for NGOs and got to do fun things like, what
is an NGO?
Non-governmental organization. So charities basically. And, I guess USAID would be kind of like an NGO, but I didn't work for them. But I got to go to the Interpol conference and UNODC, got to see the way that this sort of thing is handled on a global scale. And then I came back to the US and I did the opioid litigation for about 6 years. And then went back briefly to be chief of crimes against children. And then I started my own private practice.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I was listening to a little bit of your story. I guess you were just kind of thrown into the whole child thing and you just couldn't say no.
Yeah, they're thrown in 25 years ago, and I wouldn't say no. Yeah, it was terrifying.
I'm sure.
I remember sitting in that chair that day, just being like, okay.
I cannot imagine. I just can't. So we mentioned before the show a little bit that I have a history. I had sexual abuse as a child. So I have struggled with that my whole life. You're talking about how people just kind of are like frozen. They just can't talk about it. And I recently spoke about it publicly, actually a couple of weeks ago for the first time. And they're wanting me to talk at this Inspire Leaders thing possibly. And so, but I did speak about it briefly, just for a minute, just admitting it or talking, just, hey, what's your story? I stood up and just said it in a group of full of mostly men, actually. I would think there was only like 2 other women. It was all men. And that I had been sexually abused as a child, and that I also went through domestic abuse, physical, mental, was married to a narcissist. I mean, I've just all of it. And I've died. I was in a car wreck. And so I've just physically trauma and emotional trauma. And people are like, oh my gosh, I would have never even like imagined, because you just don't seem like that kind of person. That's the thing, is you just don't, people don't have like a look. Not everybody that goes through hard times turns out to be a crackhead. Now, could that have happened to me? Definitely. I was surrounded by meth heads when I was a teenager. So that was very predominant in the late 90s and early 2000s. And unfortunately, I have some friends that have passed away from drug overdoses and things. So, I love that you have written a book to help people understand that there's not like you can't judge a book by its cover, right? You can't just look at somebody and tell if they've had any kind of abuse. And also maybe giving people the ability to speak up about it, because I think once you do start to talk about it, that's how you heal. Yeah. And I recently learned about how trauma stays in your cells, and there's another book called
Body Keeps the Score.
Body Keeps the Score. Yes.
Yeah. I talk about that book a lot. It's a game changer.
It is. And anybody who's been through trauma really needs to read that book. And I haven't read your book. I did not have an opportunity to read it.
Well, it's not out yet.
Okay.
It's only available for pre-order. So,
okay.
But as a gift, I will send you the advanced reader copy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I am excited to read it. Yeah. And maybe we can, make some difference in some lives.
You already have. Not only for yourself, but for others.
I hope so. I have children, and I want to do this for my kids. I want to break the cycle, and you can't not traumatize your own children if you don't un-traumatize yourself. You got to do the work, and it's ugly and it's hard, and you have to have a lot of discipline, because when you get to the hard parts, you want to give up. When you feel your whole body my body will start to ache, and I'll get like migraines, and my neck will start hurting, and my lower back will start hurting, and that's the trauma. And that's what I've learned, is that it's in your cells. And there's therapies and things that they do, and I'm looking into some different methods, but I do a lot of deep tissue and prayer, and I've done yoga and grounding and being in nature. And I think all of those things, and of course, surrounding yourself with amazing people, I think all of those things are all important. But anyway, so let's not talk about me anymore, and let's talk about you.
I would love to just flip this podcast and I ask you questions next, because you've shared so much that is really important to discuss, like the prevalence.
Right.
I honestly, I think it's every woman and a lot of men.
Well, they used to, there was a statistic that like 1 in 3 women have been sexually assaulted, and that's what they know. Most women don't talk about it, because I'm not a part of that statistic. They don't know about me.
Right. That's the World Health Organization. They just came out with a recent study that says globally it's 1 in 3 sexual violence or domestic violence. But again, like you said,
it's got to be higher.
Undercount. Yeah.
Yeah. And then men too, they don't talk about men.
At least 25-30% of men.
Men definitely, I feel like, talk about it a lot less than women do, because I think they're even more ashamed.
Yeah. And for boys, it's really, they feel like they could have fought him off. And then of course it makes them question their sexuality.
Yeah, for sure. And that's not their fault.
Yeah, no, it's just, it's like, it's the root of all the issues that we're having, really. Yeah.
I think
we're hurt really bad when we're kids.
I think that also I was reading something about how young boys feel like it's their fault because they don't do anything about it. Yeah. And they feel like they should have, like you said, fought them off or said no. And they're too, what happens is that people don't understand is you freeze. Yeah. That's what happened to me, is I froze. And I really don't remember my trauma very well. Thank God. Not the worst one anyway. And,
usually more than one.
Yeah. And so I just don't remember it. And I don't, people are like, well, you should get hypnotized and remember it. And I was like, I don't want to. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I don't need to release that.
It may happen anyways.
It might,
You know?
and that's fine if it does it naturally on its own, but I'm a big believer in prayer and
Yeah.
other methods. I feel like God took that out of my memory for a reason. I
Yeah.
think that we're not supposed to remember everything.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't remember my earliest one, but I know it happened.
Is that what
I
kind of, so that's what I was going to ask you is how did you end up here? Because most people that I talk to that are advocates or counselors or whatever, written books, is because they've had their own experience.
Yeah. Yeah, not only have I prosecuted those cases, but I was frozen, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, I could not say what had happened to me. The most formative one that I know was when I was 19.
Wow.
And you know, I literally just disassociated, and I was able to, you know, say things to the kids that I needed to hear as well. Like, you're so brave, you can do it.
Because you know.
Yeah. And it was really an interesting way of living because I was speaking to myself, but I really hadn't acknowledged that it had happened to me.
Right.
And so it was yeah, it was just really going back to it. But, you know, eventually, you know, you grow older and then it'll happen again.
Right.
And then grow older. And, you know, it happened to me while I was in my 40s, you know, after I quit drinking. And so I was sober and I was able to live that experience. And it really, you know, jerked me out of my complacency. And I was like, you know, I can't hide from this anymore. It's happened to me. There was no excuse for it. I remember the whole thing. I mean, why did I act like that during this event? Because I had disassociated, and I remember looking down and being like, why can't you fight back? You're sober. You know, it's not like the other times when you might have been intoxicated, you know. Look at all this happening and you're just not. And that's when I realized, oh,
Yeah.
that was the pattern. That was the pattern of being a survivor and going into some sort of other survival state. And that's when the pieces started to fall into place. And, you know, through some unrelated workplace event, I ended up being really forced into disclosure. Like, I've just got to figure out what is this at the root that is just causing my life to have this dis-ease, you know?
Right.
And I stayed up one night and I wrote as much of it out as I could remember. And the document was called Disclose or Digest. And I sat with it for about a month. And then I got an email from a publisher who I followed on LinkedIn, who writes books for lawyers. You know, lawyers choose them to publish. And I thought, what the hell? I'm just going to write this PR person. And so I wrote and I said, hey, would you ever be interested in, you know, a survivor who had prosecuted crimes against children cases, who was also, you know, telling their own, you know, disclosure? And they were like, yeah, actually, we would. And so I sent them that document, and the rest is history. And they were my outcry witness.
And did it come at a time kind of when you were ready, right? Like when they approached you?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
It was at a time where, again, it's for their kids. I was like, you know, if I don't get a handle on whatever this is, I'm going to keep searching. I'm going to keep trying to fill this void inside of me. And I need to figure out what this is.
Right.
So that was the void.
And you have children too.
I do. I have daughters.
And how old are they?
Almost 11 and 9.
Okay.
So
do you feel like you're a little more paranoid than the average parent after everything you know and what's happened to you?
I think you lost her.
Uh-oh.
There she is.
Oh, there it goes.
Back.
Okay. Did you hear what I said?
I did not. I'm sorry.
Do you feel like with having daughters that you're a little like more paranoid because of what you've witnessed and also what has happened to you?
That's a great question. And, you know, paranoid is when they're not actually real threats, but I feel danger. I feel danger because, every time I turn around, I have a case came in today, an ISD, a special ed teacher, an ISD. And it is not, it's not uncommon. And the threats are very real. If they're not in person at the schools, they're, online
Activities.
or activities. And 90% of perpetrators are known to the child, according
What
to the Centers
about,
for Disease
how do you
Control.
feel about sleepovers?
I am the sleepover house.
Yeah, me too.
And I tell the other moms, I'm like, you don't have to worry. This is a man-free home. And, this is what I do for a living. So your baby will be safe with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I always want to meet the parents and I have to know them really well and kind of the same, right? But even when the thing is, even when you know them, I'm very paranoid because my abuse was by family members. And so I feel like I'm just more paranoid. I'm divorced and remarried, and I had a very difficult time leaving my children with my current husband, and just always in the back of my mind, wanting to kind of like watching like a hawk, or if he got up in the middle of the night to go in the other room or something because he had gas, and very being polite. And I'm like, wait, where are you going? What are you doing? And I would like sneak out of the room to just try to catch him. Isn't that sad? But
No, I think that's smart. I think that's protective mother.
yeah. But I also feel like now I've been married it'll be 4 years in December. I don't have that paranoia anymore with him, but I feel like it was very like he would never, he just wouldn't do that. I just know that now. But in the beginning, as much as I loved him and trusted him and married him, it just took me a while, right, to really like back check it just to make sure. Yeah. And even my ex-husband, who was their father, I still same. Like I was always paranoid, or like if we had friends over, or when my kids would be in their rooms playing and somebody would go in the house to use the restroom, I would follow them in because, I would go in to check on my kids to make sure they weren't in my kids' rooms or, just things like that. I feel like it's kind of a good thing because I'm more aware of it and I'm protecting my kids, where other people that haven't had it happen to them, I feel like they're a lot more likely not to do those things. And that's where their kids get abused, is because they don't think about it. And that's big for me on getting awareness out to those people. That's to me the most important thing, is to educate the people that don't have an understanding. And you talk about the court system as just a mess because there's no communication. People don't understand that CPS doesn't communicate with the sheriff's department, who doesn't communicate with the DA's department. They're all in completely different systems, and it's just a mess. And they don't have proper education on this kind of stuff as far as the psyche of abused people and how they react to it. And so I have a judge actually here, Judge Mack. He's running for our county seat, or county judge right now. He's in a justice of the peace or precinct. I'm not a political person, but he's amazing because he's an advocate for that, for the communication and strengthening that communication, and for kids. And he's a big on suicide prevention and kids that get in trouble. He wants to help them get better, not just punish them and try to help them. And that, all those things, I went to his birthday bash last night and he announced he was running for county. So of course I was like, I'm going to vote for him. But
yeah. The fact that that his platform is heavily weighted towards improving outcomes for children,
right,
says that he's doing a good job of messaging. Because quite frankly, I don't think there's anything else worth fighting for or about.
I absolutely 100% agree, because children can't fight for themselves where adults can.
No, what are we doing? Like, this is a civilization, and look at how we treat on a large scale our own offspring.
Yep.
Like, how is humanity how are we going to put a man on Mars, or figure out what this 3-eye atlas is over there? if we can't get our kids, they're going to end up in the gutter at the rate that we're going. Yeah. Everything is.
Yeah. Well, it's it's the demise of our society. And it's funny because if you look back at how the reason that people left Europe and other countries to come to America was to get away from their demises of their civilizations, that corruption and all these things took over, and they wanted to get away from it, and they fled to America, and now we're just going right back into the same cycles.
Yeah.
And it's the same cycles over and over. And the whole point of learning history is to not repeat those mistakes.
Right.
And we have, the internet and all this stuff where we can communicate, where that's never been in the world before, as far as we know, right? We don't know, but as far as we know,
No, I agree.
we've got to get it out there.
I agree. And that's the silver lining to this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, the prevalence of child sexual abuse and, traumatic events to children is at an all-time high.
Right.
But this is the first time we've ever been able to talk about it. And even though, women and mothers especially are not where we need to be in our society, we're able to talk. And so there's actually a lot of hope, because we've never been able to communicate like this before.
Do you think it's actually more prevalent, or do you think we actually just know more about it because of the communication?
I think it's more prevalent. So like the CDC, those numbers don't even count the online. So we have this whole other threat with internet perpetrators, and clearly crimes against children have always been happening. But what we know from what little research has been done on sex offenders is that, they like to cross lines and then they can't go back. And with all of this material on the World Wide Web, they're exposed to things that they would only be able to get in like dark alleys, before.
Yeah.
Or through actual access to a
Well,
child.
and like now young boys are exposed to it, and young men.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's we've got a really serious problem on our hands.
Right.
Really serious.
So, so tell us about your book. Like what made you decide? I mean, obviously you said that you were, a publicist reached out to you and then you decided to write this book, but really what made you come up with the idea?
The idea I got 20 years ago when I first started doing these cases. Outcry witness is actually a hearsay exception in Texas. And so it's just that phrase, outcry witness, just always was so powerful to me. And, one thing that I learned from doing those cases is that the only thing the survivor has control over is who they tell, how much they say, and when. And I had been thinking for a while, like, first of all, I had been recruited to run for office, and I was afraid. I was like, what if one of these perps has a picture of me or something, And, it was always kind of like it was like a skeleton in my closet, but it really wasn't. And I was just like, I'm going to own this. I'm going to own this material, and I'm going to make the best use of it.
Wait, you were scared to come out about your own because you were afraid they would expose you?
If you run for office, you just don't know. Like, you just don't know. Stuff could come out of wherever. And I was like, I don't want to be on the defense about something that happened to me. I want to own it.
Gotcha.
And so,
well, that's what they expect, though, is the fear.
Yeah, exactly. The silence. And, sorry, let me turn off my Wi-Fi. I think I'm getting a laggy connection here on my phone. So I just wanted to own the material. I wanted to be in charge of the way that I delivered the outcry. And I thought, and then when I talked to the publisher, I wasn't planning on writing this book, and it really turned a lot of things in my life upside down. They said there was nothing like it out there, that there was a total void in the market. And I hadn't looked for comps.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was like, well, if I can, then I should. And so I decided to go ahead and do it.
I feel like I heard you say something about you're a yes person. And I love that, because when God calls you to do something, you just have to say yes.
Yes.
And you had this name for the book immediately. I started writing a book like 7 years ago, and I named it Misunderstood. That's how I came up with my show name, was because I never finished my book. I just wasn't ready. And now I feel like I'm ready. I started writing a little bit more again. But because I felt misunderstood, right? Because people just judge you by the way you look and you're successful or this or that. And just don't see what's going on inside. And really inside, I was very broken and struggling. And, but when you go out in public, you're happy and you're smiling. And I feel like those are most of the time the most happy, smiling people, because they don't want anybody to see it. And they also want to make everybody else feel good because they know what it is like to feel bad. And I was a class clown. I was in every yearbook I have, my friends are like, class clown, don't stop being funny. That's what I use, humor, to deal with my trauma. But you talk about the outcry. I don't really understand all that definition, the courts and stuff. I never got to go to court. But my trauma started at 5. And when I was 10, I moved in with my father in Austin. So the trauma stopped because it was my stepdad's family. And not my stepdad, never, but it was my stepdad's family. And it was happening at people's houses, in the yard, like crazy stuff. And when I was 11, I was living up in Austin and I got real close to a teacher. I was actually in her acting class and I got Best Actress for a Shakespeare play. And she was just so proud of me. And I just had this bond with her. And I finally told her. And she went to my dad. And my dad told her I was a liar. And I don't know why. I still to this day don't know why my own father would tell her that I was a liar. Why would he not protect me? Because that was a moment in my life that drastically changed. Drastically, because then I became resentful and angry and having outbursts and getting in fights. And I got in a lot of fights as a kid. And people would say, yeah, when you were younger, you had like a chip on your shoulder. Well, of course I did. I have all these diaries where I'd write like, I hate so-and-so over and over and over when I was like in 3rd, 4th grade. Well, why didn't my dad just read those diaries?
Do you still have the diaries?
No, I threw them. I burned them with a friend of mine. It was like a seance we had.
Yeah.
But I can still remember the smell. One of my diaries had like a smell. They had like smelly diaries in the 80s. And it's probably toxic. But I smelled that one time and my whole body went into like this, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like my whole body just started shaking. It was crazy. Yeah. And so they say smell is the number one thing that will like re-traumatize you.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, like a particular brand of shampoo. Like I had one who, couldn't deal with the smell of Pantene. Another one, would get sick with Old Spice. Another one, like,
well, everybody gets sick with Old Spice.
I know, right? Wretched at the grocery store smelling candles. So yeah, and those details are so important to me.
Yes.
As I'm talking to a survivor, and that's like you said, how you escape it by being funny.
Yeah.
I escaped it by just getting lost in other people's stories. Yeah.
Working.
And, I go there, tell me more about the smell. Okay. And, and then what happened after that? And then, what did the sheets look like? You'd be amazed how many people remember the sheets.
Well, you remember like weird little details.
Yeah. Yeah. Flashes. And so, and to your first point, what children say hurts them even worse than the actual abuse is when they don't have a protective caregiver.
I think that was worse for me than the actual abuse, and being my own father too.
Yeah.
I think that was the worst thing. I had a very broken relationship with him, after that, of course. And
I want to unpack that with you. I don't know if you want to do it here, but
not necessarily. I don't want to cry on the radio.
That's legit. That's legit. You have every right to be, to be very hurt about that.
Yeah. And so, but it's just something that I've recently really started actually unpacking other than in writing, right? Poems. Yeah. And I think you wrote a poem, right? You said you wrote a poem in a previous interview.
Yeah.
I
I
used
had to
to,
write a poem to, I think I talked about that on Substack because I had to like look at the child sexual abuse material.
yes,
So I had to
like a
like write
prayer
this.
kind of.
Yeah, a prayer. That's what it was. I had to
Yeah.
like write
It was
something
an
to start.
interview I listened to with other attorneys, with
That's right. It
other
was ladies
women.
in law. Ladies in
Yes,
law.
I love that interview. I would love to
That
have
was
one of them on
raw.
my show. They were amazing.
Yeah, they were great.
I
And I
like
was
it.
so raw and they handled it beautifully.
I've always thought, man, I should have been an attorney. I should have been an attorney, but God took me on a different path, and
Yeah. It's not all it's cracked up to be. We
well,
have a lot of work to do
yeah.
as a profession.
No, I totally, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't like to read a lot.
Yeah.
I like to read things I'm interested in, which is usually like self-help and stuff like that, or stories, but like true stories. I'm a big, like, I watch a lot of Dateline and
Oh. No,
uh,
you should there's actually so much space, I think, for people who are interested in that kind of thing,
but now I just want to be an advocate, like using my space, whether it's social media, the radio, writing my book, my influence, just even in my own county. I feel like that's even if you change one life, I think that's what really matters. And um, being an attorney, you talked about, having to write that poem because of all the things you're watching. I thought I used to be a photographer, and I actually was interested in being a forensic photographer because I was like, I want to catch people. I want to help them catch people. And I'm really good at finding little details and taking
Yeah, I can
pictures.
tell you know a lot about me.
I
I'm like,
am.
bravo.
I just did a little homework, but I didn't want to come on here, I know nothing. But this actually really interests me. So when Dick presented it to me, he was like, "Hey, I think this would be a good show for you because we have multiple shows on the radio." And I was like, "Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much." And the fact that he knew to reach out to me, he's awesome. Just like, and after everything I've been going through recently with just being able to talk about it finally, and then he literally reached out to me right after that. And I was like, this is a sign.
Wow.
This is a sign.
Yeah. So you're in active disclosure right now, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me is, really just a few weeks ago you
Yeah.
began the process.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it is a process.
Yeah.
It's not an event, it's a process.
I went through a physical change. Like
Yes,
literally
a physical change.
my body physically went into almost like it was releasing, and my neck just got like super inflamed, and I had to go to get a deep tissue massage, and also right before Thanksgiving, like 2 days before Thanksgiving break.
I'm so honored that you're sharing this because what you are describing is what I know can happen, which is why I wrote this book, is because I want to get more people feeling like you felt, like
yeah,
the release.
Yeah.
Because it's too hard to live when you're holding all that in. It really is.
And it's not fun releasing it. It's not easy. It physically hurts. It emotionally hurts. You cry a lot. I listen to Christian music, and I've just been like jamming the Christian music super loud, especially in my car. And I got a new car and haven't tinted my windows yet. And people can see me. So I had somebody staring at me the other day. I was like, I don't care. But we got to find a way to get it out and to talk about it, because there's so many people that don't understand this, because I didn't understand it. I'm 45 years old, and I just now there's just not a lot of public, like, common knowledge out there about it.
There's almost none. That's why I had to write this book. But the book is going to take you from before you've decided to tell, like when you're still frozen.
Right.
The book is written to the person who's still frozen, and like, something's wrong with your life. Maybe you've just had a string of terrible relationships. Maybe you're struggling with substance use. Usually there's some sort of event
or all of those things.
Yeah, all those things. And, you get to the point where you're just like, enough. And, I need to finally do it, because we all have felt like, just say it, just get it over, and we're like, no, we can't, because you're frozen. And so it takes you on a step-by-step journey of, how to become unfrozen.
I think my motivation is my family, because when you have trauma, I have a tendency when something's bothering me or there's a trigger, especially when I'm still dealing with my ex-husband and my children, I react instead of responding. And I don't want to be that way anymore.
Yeah.
I want to go back to who I was even before I was 5, because I remember who I was, and remembering that person that I was, that beautiful soul.
Soul. It's
Yeah.
your soul.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is soul work. And to your point about faith, there's a lot of spiritual warfare in this journey.
For sure. And
Yeah.
the enemy will use it all day, every single day, for the rest of your life if you don't.
Yeah.
But you got to have the tools. And for
Yeah.
somebody like you to come out and write a book to give people those tools, I think there's so much more that you can. I would love to see more. I'd love to help you do more. I'd love to make reels, because everybody loves reels, and I feel like that you can get to more people that way, because a lot of people don't read books, or get it on Audible. And if you do it on Audible, please will you read the book yourself, because I love when the author reads the book themselves, because it just comes out better.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to figure that out right now. I'm like, where am I guess I could do it in my closet, and Amazon sells these booths. I'm like, maybe I'll get one of those so I can go in there. I don't know if you've heard, there's like some construction in the next door unit, but yeah, they want me to
maybe
read
Dick will
it.
let you come on a weekend and do it. You can do it in
I
our
would be so
studio.
grateful. I would be so grateful.
Would you do that, Dick? Let her just come on the weekend and read her book. We'll talk about it.
That is so generous that he's willing to consider it.
If you want to do like a donation, because we're a nonprofit, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I really don't know what else to do. I'm like, I got this little mic here, this little nano mic.
I think it's great. I think what you're doing is amazing, and anything I can do to help and get tools out. I'm a big social media guru. I work in real estate, and so I'm actually I'm a creative marketing and business development is my specialty, and so I'm also a health nut, and so I
want to have you on my podcast.
Sure, anytime. I'll even drive up there. I have family up there.
Because I want to get I want to get people on the podcast who want to share their story. Like I want it to be like being in court.
Yeah, I'll come on your show and cry. I don't want to cry on my show because all my friends listen.
I love it. Like being that person that someone tells the truth about what happened to them for the first time is the greatest honor. And sharing that moment is just like, it's the most powerful human experience I think you can have. And that is the witness. So trauma studies say that you can really begin to heal when you say it out loud to yourself, and writing it helps a lot too. And then to be witnessed by another person.
Oh.
So, choosing someone to be your witness is involved in my book.
We lost you for a minute.
She'll come back.
Was that us?
Yeah.
There's a really sacred exchange between two people.
Okay. It's cutting out a little bit. We lost you for a second.
Yeah, it's a very sacred exchange between two people.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's got to be like an emotional bond after that. How do you deal with not absorbing all the other people's energy and carrying that with you?
Well, who says I haven't? I mean, I wrote a book about it.
What do you do? What do you do to release that kind of negative energy?
Well, what ends up, you mean the filth of the defendants? I've been grateful that I don't know. I don't let them get to me. Usually the filth of the defendants, I just shake it off.
See, I would be like a vigilante, and I'd probably like start killing people.
Well, again, I had to write a book. I had to channel it into something. And I have a fiction book that's on that topic that I've got an outline for. That'll be my third book. I'm getting started on my second. But,
wow.
The vigilante thing is very interesting Very interesting.
I've had some nightmares or dreams or fantasies, whatever you want to call them, for sure. I've had daydreams. I definitely would want to be the person out there, taking care of business, but I wouldn't do it probably in the most justice way. I mean, when the proof is the proof and you're seeing proof and you know that they've done this, I don't know. I kind of feel like, they should just be hung. Like,
yeah. Louisiana's bringing back chemical castration. And I want to say South Carolina brought back like the firing squad or something. But I'm not opposed to that because look, like they can't be
we're
fixed.
paying money to keep them in a prison too. And I'm sorry, but I don't want to pay for that. And they actually have a better life a lot of times in prison than they do outside in the real world than most people have in the real world. They get educated and all kinds of stuff. And I just feel like, and then I had another experience too. My son was brutally attacked. It's been almost a year ago, year and a half. It was August of 2024. He was 16. He weighed like 115 pounds. And he was attacked by 7 boys from another school that were 18 years old and twice the size. They were super athletes. Rumor is they were on steroids, all these things, 240 pounds, went to college on scholarships for, athletic scholarships. And they all got deferred adjudication. Only 3 of them were convicted.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to pay any restitution or anything. My son had a brain injury, organ bruising. His nose is broken. He has a deviated septum. And the emotional trauma, which is the worst, he still has headaches. The boy had never took Motrin in his life for a headache before that. And he still has headaches to this day. And now he's homeschooled.
I'm so sorry.
The court, that's when I really learned how bad the court system and the communication, because the detective on the case, first off, talked to us like idiots all the time. He was very demeaning to me and my son and would say things like, well, the boys fight all the time and all this stuff. And we had it on video too. And there was a bunch of kids that kind of cornered my son, like they did a circle, boxed him in. And he had been drinking, which, obviously he realizes that was a mistake. He doesn't drink now. But it was one of the first times he'd been out drinking with his friends. He was supposed to be at a friend's house, playing basketball and stuff. And they took, they beat him up really bad. They actually blindsided him. The kid came from ran at him when he wasn't even looking at this kid. He was looking at another kid that was lunging at him and ran at him and punched him in the nose at a running force. And this kid's 240 pounds. His neck's as big as my thigh, and knocked my son back onto the concrete. And then they all jumped in and just started kicking him and punching him. And it's all on video. And this detective, we gave him a bunch of witnesses because my son's friends that were there and other people, we went to them, and gave them a whole witness statement and da-da-da-da-da. And this detective didn't even call the witnesses. And I know this to be a fact because I talked to the kids and they're like, he never called me. Why? And I went to the DA's office multiple times asking why, and went to the sheriff's department and all these things. And they just were like, we did our investigation. We looked into it. It looks like he did his job.
Well, and what message, I'm always looking at like, what message does that send to the kids?
Oh, my son's like, why even bother?
Right. Well, and then the kids who are witnesses are getting the message like, oh, my voice isn't even important enough. And imagine what it's like to a child to witness that kind of violence and to think, gosh, should I step in and do something, or am I going to get, damn near killed too?
Well, not just that.
Sounds like a really serious assault case.
But then these young men, they not only did they not even learn the lesson, their parents didn't make them be accountable for it. If my son had been a part of something like that, my son would be over at their house waiting on them hand and foot and writing an apology letter and whatnot.
Right.
Carrying books to class. I don't care. Driving them around. Like, I would be totally different. The parents just like, oh, my kid can do no wrong. And,
I see that all the time. And in the criminal, it's these young defendants. And I was just thinking about that earlier, these poor baby perpetrators. I'm like, at what point do we say, no, you're going to be held accountable?
Now they're in college, unsupervised completely, doing God knows what. And this is the thing with the history with these boys is so many parents reached out to me, and I told the detective and the DA and all these people, I was being told all these stories and sending screenshots and emailing screenshots of the parents' testimony, but they have sexually assaulted girls. They've beat up girls, punched girls in the face. They jumped a bunch of middle school boys on Halloween trick-or-treating. They've done this.
Sociopathic
Yes.
behavior.
Yes. And they got deferred adjudication, and that's it.
Oh my God.
That's what really bothers me. And so, this whole system being broken is 100%, I agree. And
It's just a matter of time before they're on a Title IX.
And it could have been stopped.
I know it could have been stopped, but you know what? At least you can sleep at night.
Yeah. I tried fighting, and I finally got to a point where it was taking such an emotional toll on me. That I gave it to God and was like, you know what? I'm putting it in your hands. It was a big lesson I learned last year is sometimes you just got to give it to God and trust him and let it go. Cause my son was like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to go, because he went to the DA's office with me maybe a few months ago. It was a last ditch effort to try to get them to do something. That's when they were like, well, we looked into it and everything looks fine. I'm like, I'm fighting with him. I'm like, he did not call witnesses. Can't you call these witnesses and just even look into it at all? And they're like, sorry, we can't do anything.
What county was this?
Montgomery County, where we're at, down here in Conroe.
I'm never wanting to Monday morning quarterback a law enforcement agency. They have very hard jobs, but when you're talking about people with criminal history and having sexually assaulted girls too, this sounds to me like a very concerning pattern. That means that these individuals pose a threat.
Yeah, I know. So, but what do you do?
Well, I could sit and talk to you all day unpacking all this, but I will say that feeling of powerlessness probably is what led to your outcry.
Yeah, I agree.
Jostles it out.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason though.
Yeah.
My son now doesn't drink, doesn't go to parties, and he was headed down the wrong path and hanging out with the wrong kids. And as much as we try to advocate your child to do right and he's raised a certain way, kids make their own decisions. And boys want to be boys and they want to have fun and drink and chase girls and whatever. And he realized that that's not the way to go. And so it's not 100% loss. You got to take, I look at the upside. I try to look at the upside of everything and stay positive. And that's the only way you can live, right? I can dwell on they didn't get their punishment, but you know what? They have to live with themselves. And their parents have to live with the fact that, and when they get in more trouble, their parents are responsible for that now.
Yeah. And, I would say it's not over. Be prepared to get a phone call at some point where, you're going to get a call where it's like, hey, will you come and testify during the punishment phase of a different proceeding with a different victim?
Oh, I'll be right there. I don't care what state it's in. I will go.
Because if they've gotten away with it, I mean, look, this is what I was watching the P. Diddy documentary last night. And it looks to me like, when you're not held accountable over and over and over again, this is what you end up with.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it takes courage to hold people accountable. It takes courage to be a DA who's willing to walk into the courtroom and try a case. Because you know what? Maybe it's not my decision to make who gets deferred adjudication in this instance, because this kid is hurt and his family wants justice and this doesn't feel like justice. So let's just let the jury decide.
Right.
Why? What do you have to lose? Just try the case.
And why didn't I get restitution?
Golly.
I have $15,000 in medical bills after insurance for CT scans and MRIs and x-rays over and over. You have to do it over and over and over, especially with the brain. And then physical therapy, which was $185 a week, and all this stuff. And my son still has to have surgery on his nose. Yeah, no. I mean, and like when you're a victim, you have rights, and like you should be able to say, no, I am not okay with this plea bargain. I'm not okay. They didn't even tell us.
Well,
Wait,
that's against the law.
we didn't even know. They
Yeah, there's a
they
crime
sent me
victims
a
bill of
letter.
rights.
They sent me a letter after.
Do you know about the AG, the Crime Victims Compensation Fund?
I have actually, since the last few months, heard about it and looked into it. After I went to the DA's office the last time, then that's when they started giving us information.
Yeah, because they want you to, anyways. Man, I'm sorry. Then, you know, it was so many stories like that were stacking up that I just couldn't stay in the DA's office this last time. I was like, this just makes me an instrument of oppression.
If you need my testimony for your book or your podcast or whatever, I'm here to help. I have no lack of courage.
Yeah, no, you and me, we're gonna be friends. I got your cell phone number here.
Awesome.
And I'm gonna send you an advanced copy of my book. So that way, you know, you can start working with the content before April.
Okay. Maybe you can help me finish writing mine.
Oh, I've got the best collaborator. I mean, I have a professional. It's not easy. It's really not easy. And like, I was just swimming in it. And so I had to hire help.
Yeah. I've been using,
and I hired the right one.
I've been using there's an app that helps you write your book, but it kind of helps you help with your timeline and things like that.
Yeah.
But I really want to get it out there because, excuse me, I want to tell my story so that other people can read it and be inspired and understand that you can get through this. You can get help. Don't give up. Don't give up. I still have moments I want to give up. If it wasn't for my kids, I don't know that I'd be here.
Same.
Same. Yeah.
And that's normal. That's normal. So I've learned this recently that like the violence, that the crimes that you survived, you know, the impact is the trauma, and trauma, they say, is like a dart into your life's purpose. Like,
right.
And that is like a very common, people who otherwise should be loving life. Like, God, I can't wait to wake up this morning and see what this beautiful world has in store. Instead are feeling like, God, what is the point of it all? You know,
yeah, people are suck.
Thanks to the bad guys. Exactly. And so they zap, but we can get it back. That's a whole different process, probably for a different podcast. But you know, what's so fun for you, buddy? You know, I'm glad it was worth it to you to take my will to live for what?
Right.
5 minutes of your fun.
Well, I decided not to let them have that power over me anymore.
No.
And I've also learned that I had to surround myself with people who weren't toxic.
Yeah.
I had a lot of toxic people around me for a long time. And I think that when you come from a toxic environment, that's all you know, and that's all you attract. And you have to really make a lot of sacrifices and you know, sever a lot of ties and change your life. And it hurts sometimes because some people are family. Some people have been your friends for 20 years and you have to say no more. And I think that was a big change for me as I started changing my circle and the people that I surrounded myself with and having boundaries, which is a word I didn't even know the meaning of till 5 years ago. Narcissist, didn't know what that meant. Thought it was just meant that you were a selfish person. That is a personality disorder that causes PTSD in other people. And it's an abuse. Narcissistic abuse is something I have done a lot of studying in the last 5 years to help myself. And now I can help others. And people, and teaming up with people like you and like I was talking about Judge Mack and just different people that can make a difference. Because I'm not an attorney. I'm not a judge. I'm not in those worlds. I'm not a politician. But I can help spread the word. I can help educate. And use my platforms to try to get the word out. And so that's really what I want to continue doing. And I'd love to have you on my show again and again and again and again. And you come out with a new book.
Yeah. I'm here for it. This is so much fun for me. I mean, this is like talking about this with you it heals me too.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you're helping me too, because every person, and we feel like we're so alone. We feel.
Don't you love that?
When you start disclosing what's happened to you, you find that you really love yourself and that you value yourself. And I froze. I was just saying that when you start to disclose, you realize how precious you are,
Right.
and that you've survived so much. And it's really about valuing who you are and knowing that you're just, just precious, this precious child. And no, you don't need toxic people or people that just talk about other people or people who drink all the time. Like, no, the precious needs to be with the precious.
Other precious people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you're not alone. It's so important to hear, like you saying the release. Every time someone says that, I'm like, I know it, I knew it. I knew it. There is light at the end of this tunnel.
Yeah.
There is gold at the end of the rainbow.
That is so true. Yeah. And we just got to stay positive and spread positivity and educate.
Yeah. Healing. I mean, it really is amazing that we're able to recover from this. And because look, there are so many who have never been given the chance, and you see the headlines every day.
I know.
Bad things happen to people all the time. And the fact that we're able to take a minute and to do this one thing, just disclose it and completely change our lives is just a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just grateful that I'm finally to that point. But I would like to see people much younger recovering or much earlier, not waiting 40 years to recover. I didn't have the exposure to education. Most of my education and recovery has been because of the internet, because of reels, because of podcasts, because of, being able to educate myself on all these things, reading books and listening to Audible. I'm an Audible listener because I don't have time to read a lot. I have to do it while I'm driving. I'm doing so many things, and trying to make a difference in the world one person at a time. And I realize I have to say no sometimes because I need to start working on myself. And nobody had ever told me that was okay before. Nobody gave me that permission. And I didn't give myself that permission. I just felt like I just had to do because you become a doer and a pleaser, and you just want to do all these things because you think it's going to make everybody happy and make people love you. And I realized I don't need to do all that to make people love me. People should love me for who I am, not for what I'm doing for them.
Yeah.
But I was brainwashed. So the unwashing cycle is.
Yeah. Well, and in fairness, this field, trauma studies is a very new field. And even in 10 years, even just since Me Too hit, I think we've made a lot of advancements in this section of disclosure.
Yeah.
Did you listen to Virginia Giuffre's book, Nobody's Baby?
No.
Ooh.
I'll have to remember
I
that.
wasn't really into the Epstein thing until her book. And I listened to her book, and man, did that one talk about confirming, because she describes everything you just said, not taking time to heal and not having to do everything for everybody. I mean, a lot of this is survivor
We
stuff.
become workaholics, a lot of us.
Yeah.
Or alcoholics or some kind of alcoholic,
Right.
chocoholic or a foodaholic or something to feed that void.
Feed the void. To feed the void.
Mm-hmm. That's
I'm
why
working
I
on
think
this
that obesity
song.
is so high.
Fill in the void, whatever you can throw at it.
When you love yourself, you don't want to destroy your body.
No.
You don't do things that are harmful to yourself when you love yourself. You don't want to be a drug addict or an alcoholic. And I actually had, I wouldn't say that I was a raging alcoholic or anything, but I do think that there were times when I would binge drink because I was hurting physically and mentally, because I have physical pain too. And when I realized what I was doing, and when I started really admitting it to myself and starting to love myself, that's when I was like, I don't need this. I don't even want to do that anymore. It does not sound fun to me. I'm like, I'll have a glass of wine, and then I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need it. And so, it's been a crazy turn, and then here you come.
I'm so proud of you. And, it's really beautiful listening to your disclosure story.
Well, I'm really glad that you reached out to the radio, and I'm really glad that you wrote this book, and when does it get released?
April 7th, it'll ship.
Okay. So
I
you can
know,
buy
it's
it
pretty long.
pre-order on Amazon, and it will
Mhm.
ship April 7th. And then
Yep.
you're also going to try to do Audible.
Yes. So that's my next step. So let me know what he says about
I
coming
will.
down.
Yeah.
It's not too long. It's 209 pages.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure it's really manageable and not overwhelming and as fun to read as it can be for what it is.
Yeah, because I feel like these subjects, you could write a Stephen King book.
Yeah, you should see what they cut. No, my collaborator is an angel. I mean, you should have seen the stuff I wrote.
That's funny. I feel like that's how my book's going to be. They're going to be like, this
Oh
is
my
way
God.
too much.
Screenshots. And, I was driving back and forth from Sherman, like, "Wow, this guy cut me off, in these voice notes. Bless her heart.
Have you
But
ever
yeah.
you ever watched the show Firefly Lane?
I think I have watched a couple episodes.
You should watch that series because my best friend's like, you got to watch this. It's just like me and you. She's the healthy one in the show, mentally, right? But I watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, like I could have a series on like Firefly Lane one day. Like that would be so cool to get. I don't really want people to know it was me, but I don't want people going, oh, you're that person. I never want to be that person. I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't written my book. I don't want to be that person. I thought about just using like initials so that nobody really knows it's me, like J.K. Rowling, because I'm not doing it for fame or any of that. I don't even make money. I just want to help other people. And
is your book your disclosure?
I think that's how it started, but I've decided I really just need to start talking about it because I've been asked to do it. And like you said, I'm a yes person too. I'm like, well, okay. But my issue is my body goes into my nervous system gets so, it's like fire. And when I talk about it. And so I'm trying to get through that before I get on a stage and, so maybe you can help me with that part. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
That's why we're here, right?
It's all still fresh too. I mean, who I was in May when I turned in my manuscript to who I am now has gone through a lot.
Right.
I know exactly the pain that you're talking about. And I think it'll work its way out of you,
Did you go through that pain, that physical pain as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're better now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good news. Yeah. Good news.
No, you're going through the fire. You are going through the fire. Which one is it in the Old Testament? It's like someone walked through fire, right? Was it Daniel? No, that was the lion's den.
I always think of the fiery lake we're going to go into if we go to hell.
That's the perpetrators. That's not you and me.
Yeah.
What is it?
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yes. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yes.
Walk through the fire. Yeah. There's a song too. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Oh, I haven't heard that song. And I'll be honest, I've never read the whole Bible. I know the New Testament very well, as most people do. Genesis, Psalms, Mark, Matthew, John, all those. I've seen The Chosen a couple times. But I go to church and I listen to 10-minute Bible study, but I have not read a lot about the Old Testament. So I've actually been confronted with that a lot lately, even yesterday, that I need to do that. I need to read the Old Testament and get educated on it. I think that will help as well.
There's some good stuff in there. I went to a religious school growing up. So, you started surviving at age 5. So go easy on yourself about the Old Testament. Because that little song I sang, I learned when I was your age.
Wow.
So, and that was just, we had class every day. So it's not like I sit around and read the Old Testament or anything.
I knew Jesus loves me, this I know. My grandma sang it to me every day at nap time.
That's sweet.
That stuck with me though, because through all of this, Jesus has always been with me. And I know that to be a fact. I also died once, and that's a whole nother thing we can go down.
Yeah. I want to hear all about that.
I have a crazy story. I even have a picture. It's just kind of that's why I want to write this book, because I just have the stories that are just, I feel like they're incredible, and I want to share them with the world. I feel like me keeping it to myself is like I'm being selfish.
Yeah. It sounds like you really have a lot to contribute to the discussion.
I hope so.
So
I don't want to bore people either. Like, oh, she'll just talk about herself. Like, I don't want to be that person either.
don't worry about what they say. I mean, look, I know what you mean.
Naysayers.
Naysayers. I mean, you're always going to hear their voices. And that's like a whole, thing in the outcry witness too. It's because you always know what they're going to say. And obviously your reality got shifted when your dad, chose to not believe you. So, you hear a lot of voices, but they're not yours.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really, for you, it's going to be like grounding into your soul voice.
I do
like,
agree with that, because I do feel like after that happened, I felt like, what's the point in telling anybody anything? Because nobody's going to believe me. Why tell my story? Why even bother? And I was married to somebody who was the same way. And now the guy that I'm married to, he's amazing. He's been on the show twice. If you want to go back, his name is Casey Hoffman. We tell her how we met, our story, but he also talks about sustainable ranching, farming. And he is an amazing human. And I think he definitely has a huge part in my recovery process. He is just a godsend, to be honest. I don't deserve him.
It sounds to me like you do. You actually absolutely deserve him.
Wow. I told him, I was like, when I first met him, I'm like, are you sure? Because I have a lot of baggage. Like, you have no idea. Like, how do you explain that to somebody?
If you didn't choose it, I mean, that's it. Like, we're shifting out of like, all those ideas about who we were, because it was never your fault.
No, but I have trauma, and that trauma shows in my relationships, and it's a lot to deal with. And I don't want him to have to deal with that. But he ain't perfect either. I have found out he ain't perfect. I ain't perfect.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. And so, even Dick's not perfect. He's pretty close. But if you know anybody who's single.
I'm single, but I'm too single.
I think he's the same way. He loves that I say that on every single show. I do. It's now like a thing. I have to do it, because if I don't, it's like a joke. But anyway, well, I think we're at the end of our time. I hate to get off of here, because I could talk to you for like 3 hours and make this a whole Joe Rogan show.
I know.
You need to reach out to him, by the way, and see if you can get on there.
Really? See, maybe you can help me with that kind of stuff. I have a great PR team.
I think that you should definitely reach out to him. I think he would love to have you on his show. He talks to a lot of people, and so I don't know if you listen to him. If you don't, don't listen to his. I don't listen to like his comedian stuff, but I listen to a lot of his other stuff. That's like scientists and psychologists and all those kind of things. It's really interesting.
Okay. Yeah, he has Graham Hancock on his show.
Yes.
Who I love. Ancient Apocalypse is like my favorite show. I think I've seen it 40 times. The whole thing.
My husband watches that show too.
Yeah, it's been so fun.
Yeah.
So fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing.
And for everyone on your team. And I'm going to send you a text after this.
Okay. You are a beautiful woman inside and out.
Thank you.
You have such a wonderful smile, and I'm so honored to have you on today.
Thank you. That was just so kind. And thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to many, many years of knowing you.
Oh, I agree. I made a new friend today.
100%. 100%. So you can count on me too. If you want to continue, I'll keep working with you.
Yeah, call me. We'll chat.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to text you right now. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.